In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve one-step equations. Before we start talking about how we can solve them, I want to make sure we define again what an equation actually is. In an equation, we have a left-hand side, which in this case is p plus 3, and we have a right-hand side, which in this case is 10. And in an equation, both the left-hand and right-hand side have to be equal. So there's always going to be an equal sign between the left-hand and right-hand side. If we have that, that's what we call an equation. So what I'm going to show you in this video is how to solve an equation, and we'll go for these four examples here, the one-step equation, so we only have to do one step to solve them. Now it's important to realize that when we talk about solving an equation, what we actually mean is we want to have the prenumeral, which is the letter. Remember, a prenumeral is just the letter. We want to have the letter at the end by itself. So for example, in this example here, we have p plus 3 equals 10. We want to have p be by itself on the left-hand side. At the moment, it's not by itself. We've got p plus 3. So we have to somehow get rid of that 3. And how to do that would be, so it says here to do this, we can remove the numbers from one side by performing the opposite operation. So we want to remove this number right here. It has a plus, and the opposite of plus is minus. So if we have a plus, we want to remove it, we do the minus. And if we have times, opposite of times is divided. So we do the opposite operation to remove numbers to have the prenumeral letter by itself at the end. So for example, for this example, p plus 3 equals 10. Again, we want to have p by itself. All we have to do is the opposite. So if it's plus 3, we do minus 3. And because it has an equal sign, we always have to do it to both sides. So plus 3 minus 3, that would be 0, right? 3 take away 3 is nothing, so that's gone. So we have left on the left-hand side, we just have left p, and that's what we want to have. We want to have just p on that side. So p equals, and 10 minus 3 would equal 7. So that's, now we have solved that equation, p equals 7. That's all we had to do. Next example, we've got 7 equals p minus 2. In this case, the p is on that side. It really doesn't matter which side it is. We do the same thing. We look at what sign there is. In this case, we have the minus. Remember, we have to do the opposite operation to get rid of it. So we want to get rid of minus 2, so we do plus 2 to both sides. And the reason why I do that is minus 2 plus 2 equals out, cancels out. So minus 2 adding 2 is 0, so that would be gone. And then we've left on this side, we have 7 plus 2, which is 9. And then on the other side, the right-hand side in this case, we have just left p, because p is not by itself. So we have 9 equals p, and that is our answer for number 2. For number 3, we have 2p equals 6. Now we can't see it, but remember, between the 2 and the p, between the number and the prenumeral, if we don't see any sign, it's always a times. So between those two is always a times. So again, we have to do the opposite operation. So if the operation is times, we have to do the opposite. Remember, the opposite of times was divided by. So we have to divide both by the number in front of the prenumeral, which in this case is 2. Let's divide that by 2. Now what's 2 divided by 2? 2 divided by 2 is basically 1. So this equals to 1 times p. And what is 6 divided by 2? That would be equal to 3. Now often we don't write 1 times p because 1 times p, if we have 1p or 1 times p, we can just write p instead. So we don't actually write the 1, we can just say p equals to 3. Now again, we have on our left-hand side, we have p by itself. That's all we try to do, get p by itself. And we have our solution, which is p equals 3. Now this example is not here, so number 4, we have x over 3 equals 7. Now remember, anything in the denominator, which is the bottom of the fraction, this part here, we can't see it, but there's actually, it basically means x divided by 3. We can't see it, but if it's in the denominator on the bottom, it always means divided by. So if it's divided by, we have to do the opposite to get rid of it. Remember, the opposite of divided by was times. So we'll times both sides by the number, which is 3. So times that by 3, and that by 3. Now 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3, what does that equal? That would equal 1. So we can cancel that out, because 1 times x is the same as x. So we have left x on that side, on the left hand side, and 7 times 3, which is 21 on the right hand side. That's how you solve one-step equations. I'm quickly going to show you how to solve two-step equations. Now, two-step equations work very similar to how a one-step equation works. The same idea. We want to make sure we first remove everything to make sure that the pronumeral letter is by itself. So for example, here we'll try to get x by itself, here's x by itself again, and here we want to have x by itself again. So we want to have for all those examples, we want to have on the left hand side x to be by itself. Now we have to go for two steps. First, we're going to remove any number that we can add or subtract. So first, we'll do any number that we can add or subtract, we'll do the opposite. And then once we've done that, we will remove any number that we can times or divide it by a second. That's going to be our second step. So first step, plus or minus, and second step, times or divided by. That's why we call it the two-step equation. Now I go for example right here. So we've got 2x minus 2 equals 6. Remember, there's a times between the 2 and the x. We don't see it, but it's always a times between them. So what do we do first? Remember, we try to remove, in this case, the minus 2, because plus or minus will be removed before times are divided by. So if it's minus 2, what we have to do is the opposite operation, which would be plus 2 to both sides. Then that crosses out because minus 2 plus 2 is 0. So we have left 2x. Remember, that is 2 times x. And then we have equals 6. Sorry, 6 plus 2. So 6 plus 2, which equals 8. That's after our first step. And now we want to remove the times or divided by. We've done the plus and minus, but now we remove times divided by. So there's a times sign between the two. So if we do the times sign, we do the opposite, which would be a divided sign. So it means divide both sides by that number in front of the pronumeral. So divide both sides by 2. And then we have that crossing out. So that would be equal to x, and 8 divided by 2 equals to 4. And that's what our solution is. So after those two steps, we have our solution. All right, same for this one. So we've got x over 5 plus 3 equals 13. Remember that over, if it's on the bottom, that actually means we don't see it, but there's a divided sign. So it's basically x divided by 5 plus 3 equals 13 if we had to read it out. So what we do first, again, we want to get rid of that plus 3 because plus or minus, so plus or minus before times are divided by. We do the opposite, so if it's plus 3, we'll minus 3 from both sides. So plus 3 minus 3 cancels out. So we have left on the left hand side, on this side, we have just left x over 5, that's gone. And then we also have left 13 minus 3 is 10, that's after our first step. And then what we do, remember there's a divided by, so it's divided by 5, so we have to do opposite operation, so we have to times both sides by that number, because opposite divided by is times, so timesing both sides by 5. So 5 over 5, that's crossed out because that's equal to 1, and we don't have to write that. So we just left now with just what's up on top, which is x, and 10 times 5 is 50. So that is what we get after our second step, and now we have our solution because we've solved the equation because x equals 50. Alright, so same with this one, we want to do plus and minus first, and then times divided by. So it looks like there's 2 minus here, but remember, there's actually a times between the minus 2 and the x, so it's actually, we say it's minus 2 times x minus 3 equals 7. So what we have to do first is still this minus here, because that's not being times, it's just being taken away. So we do the opposite here. So minus 3, we do plus 3 from both sides. That's going to be gone. And then we have left minus 2x equals, that's gone. So 7 plus 3 equals 10. That's after our first step. Important, what we have here is we want to, so it's actually minus 2 times x. And what we want to do here is we want to remove that minus 2, so we have to remove the whole thing. So we divide, because it's times, we do the opposite. We divide both sides by minus 2. Divide the whole thing by minus 2. And then after that step, we have minus 2 divided by minus 2 cancels out. That's just 1. Also the minus cancels out as well. So on that side, we just have left x. And then, so that's after step 2. And then on the right hand side, we've got 10 divided by minus 2. And anything, if we divide anything by negative number, So if it's a positive number divided by a negative number, it'll be a negative. So it'll be negative, and 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So that would be your answer for this one. X equals negative 5.